Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Breaking Lies. My name is Samar Hakim. The negotiations between America and Iran in Pakistan ended up with no results. The most intensive, highest level talks between Iran and America ended up with nothing. Now, it makes complete sense that they didn't come up with a negotiated deal here. Why is that? Well, we've got America, Israel, and Iran. America is the only one in the world that has used nuclear bombs. Israel, alongside America, has an arsenal of nuclear weapons. Iran, on the other hand, does not have any nuclear weapons, does not want to build the nuclear weapons. It has a religious fatwa against having a nuclear weapon. And yet these countries, America and Israel, are trying to convince Iran not to have a nuclear weapon. This is America saying that we're allowed to have nuclear weapons and threaten you with it. We've earned it. While you Iranians can't even have centrifuges. You can have a stern look. Iran is saying, we don't want a nuclear weapon. We don't want to build it. We have no interest in having it. There's a religious fatwa against it. America is saying, good, now prove it, while we get to keep ours, as well as Israel, and we might even give some to Saudi Arabia if you like. The absurdity of this conversation is just so thick you can spread it on toast. This isn't diplomacy. This is a sketch about hypocrisy, and somehow it became reality. Anyways, about the delegations that went to Islamabad for the negotiations, John Bolton, whose mustache probably started more wars than any other country, has said, why are we sending Vance to the negotiations when the Iranians are sending some unknown?
Well, I would have Secretary of State Marco Rubio lead the U.S. delegation. That's his job, actually. I think it's a big mistake to send out the vice president to meet some unknown Iranian, maybe the Speaker of their parliament. Vance is, by definition, the next thing below the president, and the stakes make that are there are made much higher by his presence. Rubio's a cabinet officer; it's his job. I think that makes more sense.
Okay, hang on a minute. Fact check. Let's see who the Iranians have sent. First of all, the Speaker of the Parliament, Ghalibaf, and then Arakchi, the Foreign Minister, and a whole set of experts. Now let's see who the Americans sent. Vance. Okay, that's fair enough. And then his son-in-law and his Gulf buddy. Iran sends their lead nuclear physicists. You sent real estate agents, Gulf buddies. You tell me. You tell who the Iranians should be sending here, right? They've sent their top scientists, their lead negotiators to the negotiating table, and you're complaining about it as them sending some unknown. Just take a look at this picture and see how many PhDs were in the room. They're all from the Iranian side. Oh, and where was Marco Rubio? You know, the Secretary of State, the top diplomat. Wasn't he supposed to be there? Isn't he supposed to be in the room with the negotiations with something that's so important? Oh, wait, he had something really important to do. I wonder what that was. Maybe he had to go to a UFC match. Meanwhile, Vance is Trump's top secret weapon. Why? Because he is a top negotiator. He has excellent skills. Really up there. Riveting. I wonder how skillful he is. I'm sure he's so skillful that the Iranians even said, you know what? You're good. You're so good, we don't want any enriched uranium. Here, have it all.
Second thing Ghalibaf said, which again I found fascinating, is he said, we refuse to give up the right to enrichment. And I thought to myself, you know what? My wife has the right to skydive, but she doesn't jump out of an airplane because she and I have an agreement that she's not going to do that because I don't want my wife jumping out of an airplane. We don't really concern ourselves with what they claim they have the right to do. We concern ourselves with what they actually do. And I think the president's been very clear on the enrichment question. Our position on that has not changed.
My wife and I have an agreement that she's not going to jump out of an airplane? That's the best you can come up with? I mean, no offense to the skydivers out there. That's got nothing to do with it. But, I mean, what's this got to do with the price of fish in China? You know what? But here's the best part. It was actually a really good argument. I mean, it was really good. I gotta give it to him. None of the Iranians understood what he was talking about. The only thing that they got was that his wife wants to jump out of a plane. and her husband does not let her do that. The ambassador in Hyderabad said that Ghalibaf had a really difficult job to do. Imagine having to negotiate with him, Vance, for 20 hours. Someone with such extraordinary negotiation skills. Imagine having to deal with him for 20 straight hours. That's exhausting. It really is. And then at the end to come out with nothing. Why? Because they were pushing points that were irrelevant, like having a nuclear weapon that Iran doesn't even want. That is really exhausting. That's not diplomacy. That's psychological torture.
But sir, I gotta ask, is it true what I heard? Are you actually negotiating with these herbs?
You know what? Don't worry about the negotiations. I just heard they're going really, really bad. I sent in my secret weapon, J.D. Vance. After those Iranians spent 20 hours talking to J.D., they said, please, sir, just go back to bombing us.
And now over to the elephant in the room. Some people ask, why isn't Israel in the negotiating room? Why aren't they negotiating with the Iranians? Well, apart from the fact that Iran does not recognize Israel as a country, according to some, America is negotiating on behalf of Israel. So they're in the room through their proxy. Have a look at this video too about the United States of Israel.
Yeah, like why?
Or New Jersey.
That is so insane. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Israeli flags and 1 American flag. Welcome to the United States of Israel.
That's right. The US didn't send its own team. It sent Israel's legal representatives. And while Vance wasn't negotiating for America, he was negotiating for Israel, Rubio stayed at home doing whatever Rubio was doing. Meanwhile, Israel, that can't stop murdering people, it just seems to be feeding off blood, goes back to killing people in Gaza after stopping its attacks on Iran and Lebanon. Hundreds of people have been murdered, innocent men, women, and children. The Israelis were literally waiting for the negotiations to fail, and they did everything to make sure that they failed so they can go back to their terrorist, murderous, child-killing terrorist agenda. And not only that, they also said that the negotiating team that were kept alive just so that they can negotiate with the Americans should be careful and watch their backs, because the flight that goes out of Islamabad back to Tehran may never make it. Do you realize how bizarre this is? They're literally saying, we kept these people so that we can negotiate with them. But now that the negotiations didn't come up with a result, they're dispensable. And they're threatening or threatened to kill them, eliminate them, assassinate them, get rid of them. Discardable. They're no longer wanted. This is the mentality of the terrorists that Iran is trying to deal with. Now, there's a subject that we've mentioned in the last few episodes that we want to dedicate a whole segment for. And it's the issue of the Strait of Hormuz. Now let's be straight. Do we want the Strait? Do we want it to be open or not? Is it useful for the Americans or for the Iranians to have the Strait open? Well, the negotiations failed. Like, wow, whoopee, big surprise. Meanwhile, the Iranians have full control over who goes through the Strait and who doesn't. And they've started charging the fees that they said they would charge from the very beginning of the war. Technically, the Strait is open. But it's unclear why the ships aren't going through. It's like a magic trick that nobody asked for. And perhaps this tweet here from India can help us understand. The Iranian embassy in India put this message out, saying in 2015, after the JCPOA negotiations, it told the Iranians that the banking system was open for Iran. Iran asks, well, why can't we transfer any money? The Americans said, I don't know. In 2026, fast forward, and Iran is saying that the strait is open. The Americans this time are asking, well, why aren't the ships going through? Iran says, I don't know. So what now? The negotiations fail, the Strait of Hormuz is being controlled tightly, every ship and fish are having to pay a toll to the Iranians to go through. What do we do? What's Trump going to do? Well, he announces a blockade of the blockade. They're going to blockade the Strait of Hormuz themselves. Even the ships that paid the tolls to the Iranians are going to be blocked. That means, practically speaking, the Strait of Hormuz is going to be even more tightly controlled. No one is going to go through. The Iranian ships can't go through, those who have paid the tolls can't go through, and those who haven't paid the tolls can't go through either. A lot of people don't understand what's going on and how this can benefit the Americans. Even Mark Warner said so. He said that I don't understand how blockading the strait is going to somehow push the Iranians into opening it. I don't get the connection here, and he's right. I don't get it either. Let me explain to you what is actually happening. Number one, that ship that is Iranian can't go through because the Americans are blocking it. That ship that paid the toll isn't going to go through either because the Americans are blocking it. And the ship that isn't going to pay the toll can't go through either because the Iranians are blocking it. No ships are going to be able to go through. None. But why is Trump doing all this? Well, according to one of his tweets, he wants everyone to go around and buy American oil. So he's claiming two victories here at the same time, which contradict each other kind of. He's saying that the blockade of the blockade is going to force the Iranians to open the strait. Well, that doesn't kind of make any sense. And then he's claiming that anyway, even if it stays closed, that the ships are going to be forced to go to the Americans to buy the oil from there. He's saying that that's a good thing. He's saying that's a victory for the Americans. How? Because they're going to be buying oil from Americans, and they're going to be making money from it if the oil prices remain high. But if you think about it, that just means that gasoline prices are going to be so expensive that your average American isn't going to be able to afford it. They won't be able to drive to work to be able to make the money to pay for the gasoline that they have to go to work for. Even NBC reports that oil prices surge after Trump says US will blockade the Strait of Hormuz. The experts are saying that the prices of oil will go up, and the gasoline prices will go up, and everything else will also go up as a result. As a matter of fact, even Trump himself says that the oil prices are going to go up. Look!
So do you believe the price of oil and gas will be lower before the midterm elections?
I hope so. I mean, I think so. It could be. It could be or the same or maybe a little bit higher, but it should be around the same.
Or maybe a little bit higher, but it should be around the same.
I think this won't be that much longer. They're wiped out, man. They're wiped out.
These days, nobody understands what Trump is trying to say. It's very confusing, and he seems that he's doing some very stupid things. But maybe, just maybe he understands the consequences of what he's doing, but it's just because of Israel.
You think the president doesn't understand macro energy policy? You think he doesn't know that there's a strait at the end of the Persian Gulf called Hormuz through which a lot of the world's energy flows and Iran controls it effectively?
And that if it goes bad, the midterms are a loss.
Well, yeah, that they can stop shipping with drones. You think he didn't know that? On some level, Trump is very smart, and I'm not guessing at all. Like, he understands this kind of stuff. Yep. And there are lots of ways in which Trump is silly or seems buffoonish or whatever, but on the high-level stuff, like competitions for power, who's smarter than that? He's really smart. So yes, he understood all of that. He understood the risks. All those bases, vulnerable, a weapon shortage, totally real, well-known, talked about in public. These are not classified facts here. He got it, and he did it anyway.
So there you have it. Negotiations failed. The strait open, but nobody passes. Trump's solution, blockade it. Result, tighter than ever. Who benefits? American oil. And who loses? The average person. You and I. And why? Israel. That's not a strategy. That's setting the ocean on fire and calling it shipping policy. Thank you for watching. This is Breaking Lies. See you next time.